Good afternoon, everyone. So, today's topic came from a conversation I had with one of our clients. They told me their team spends almost 30 hours per employee per month on just fixing fonts, chasing approvals of documents, and reformatting them. Can you imagine? That's almost an entire work week gone. That too, not on growth, not on meaningful content, but just on formatting, layout, and rework of document structure. Now, I want you to think about your own team. How much time do you think they lose to the same problem? This happens not because of an inefficient or careless team, but because nothing is standardized. And that's exactly why we chose this topic today, because spending 15 to 30 hours on formatting and structuring documents doesn't have to be the norm. It's a problem we see again and again with organizations using fragmented tools, and it's a problem we are obsessed with solving. My name is Raksha, and I'm here with Gautam, and we are part of the Zoho Writer team. We host these webinars on the second Thursday of every month, and for everyone who registers, we'll always share the recording afterward. You can also post your questions in the Q&A pane at any time during this session, and Vadivel, our product expert, will be answering them. All right. So let me quickly walk you through what we are going to cover today. We are going to look at your document operations end to end, but in simple, practical chunks. First, we'll start with how documents are created. We'll show you how to get everyone use approved templates and layouts so no one spends their mornings just fixing formats. Then, we'll talk about how your content is structured and formatted. Things like fonts, styles, headings, the stuff that seems small but eats up hours and hours. The goal here is to create the same type of document with the same look and feel every single time. Next, we'll move into style and reusable content blocks. This is where tone and branding comes in. We'll see how you can keep the same voice across sales, HR, legal, and every other department and build a central library of ready-to-use snippets instead of rewriting the same paragraph 20 times. After that, we'll look at distribution and collaboration. We'll also address questions like who gets to see what, who can edit, who can only comment, and how do you avoid 5 different versions sitting in 5 inboxes. We'll talk about putting simple rules and workflows in place so sharing and reviewing is clean and secure. Then, we'll get into document generation and data collection. This is the fun automation bit. We'll cover generating personalized documents in bulk and using fillable forms to collect structured data, all these without losing consistency from one document to the next. And finally, we'll wrap up with signing and archiving. How do you make e-signatures consistent and safe? And how do you make sure documents don't just live forever in random folders? We'll talk about retention policies and how to keep what you need and confidently let go of what you don't. And remember, all through this, you can drop questions into the Q&A pane.
Thank you for that excellent agenda, Raksha. Let's start with the basics. Research shows that format fiddling, which is fixing margins, adjusting fonts, correcting layouts, that actually takes up nearly 20% of an author's time. That's 1 in every 5 working hours spent not on the actual content, but on making it look right. And this isn't a one-person problem. Multiply that across your entire team, and what you see is a significant chunk of productive time which is getting lost every single week. And just to busy work that standardization can eliminate entirely. So the first question we hear from the admins is exactly this. So as an organization admin, how can I standardize document creation across my organization so that every team starts from approved templates with consistent page layouts?
That's usually where the conversation starts. How do I stop my team from starting from scratch and wasting time on formatting? Just like you mentioned earlier, format fiddling does take up 20% of the author's time, and standardization is how you kill that. With Zoho Writer, you don't just tell people, please follow this format, you give them templates. As an admin, you create org templates and push them out to your team or organization. These templates are not just a logo on top, they become preloaded with everything from page layout, margins, orientation, section breaks, headers, footers, and so on. So, if someone in sales team wants to send a proposal, they don't need to sit there thinking, should this proposal be in a certain font? And if HR wants to send an offer letter, they're not rebuilding the entire structure every single time. They just do this one thing, which is picking the approved template and starting to type. And here's the cherry on top. When your admin updates the disclaimer or the brand colors in the central template, every new document automatically uses that latest version.
Okay, so instead of me spending 10 minutes trying to set up a multi-column table or fix margins, I can just pick the right template, fill in my part, and move on. That's it, right?
Exactly. If you catch yourself formatting more than you're writing, then that's your sign to probably use a template and not start from scratch. Now, let me quickly show you a demo of org templates in Zoho Writer. So here's a template we have created in Zoho Writer. To save this as an org template, you simply have to go to File and click on Save As and select Save As Template and enter a name to the template and choose org template here and hit save. So now this has been saved as a template, and the organization members can simply use this template and don't have to start everything from scratch.
All right, so we have seen how templates fix that blank page plus format fiddling problem. Let's stay with the visuals for a second and talk about formatting. And this one goes beyond just its aesthetics. Think about a hospital sending out patient consent forms or a bank issuing loan disclosures. In these industries, a specific disclosure has to be in a specific font size, in a specific location on the page, or it simply doesn't hold up legally. But honestly, even outside of regulated industries, inconsistent formatting costs every organization's time, rework, and credibility. So here's the other question that the admins mostly has. How can I enforce consistent typography, styles, and formatting across all the documents in my organization?
This one is huge, especially if you are from industries like healthcare, finance, or any other industry where compliance is as strict. Like you mentioned, in those spaces, formatting isn't just design. Certain disclosures literally have to be in a specific size or at a specific place on the page, or they don't count. So, one small font change can accidentally break compliance. We don't want that to happen, right? So here's what we do in Writer. First, you set an organization-wide default font. You define it once in the admin settings, and every new document starts with that font without any exception. On top of that, you define themes and styles like heading fonts, body fonts, sizes, and all these become standard. Then you add auto formatting. For example, if someone applies heading 1, Writer automatically uses your approved style. They don't have to remember that this should be in this font in bold and in blue. It just happens quietly in the background. Same idea with tables and layouts. You decide how tables should look with borders, header row style, spacing, and everything else, and everyone just gets the same look when they insert a table. So the author just picks the style and moves on, and you know it's on brand and compliant.
Okay, so you mean instead of everyone manually fixing fonts and tables, you set styles once and people just apply them and the formatting takes care of itself.
Exactly.
Okay, that is great. So, visual consistency is one thing, but even if everything looks aligned, there is this other layer, how your company sounds on paper. And this matters more than people realize. Inconsistent tone and language across teams doesn't look unprofessional. It creates errors, slows down reviews, and can even create compliance gaps where the wrong wording ends up in a contract or a customer facing document. When every team writes differently, every document needs a separate review cycle just to catch what could have been standardized from the start. So here's my next question, Raksha. How can I ensure all the documents across my organization follow a consistent structure, tone, and branding rules?
Alright, so picture this. The marketing team usually writes in a warm and friendly tone, but legal is super formal and sales is somewhere in between. To the customer, this can feel like three different companies but all under one same logo. Scary, right? With Style Guide Checker, you define your rules once. Things like prefer the word customer over client, avoid passive voice in sentences, keep the sentences under 20 words, or always capitalize product names. As you can see on the screen, Zia, our AI in Writer, checks your content against all these set rules. If someone writes, the solution will be implemented by our team, Zia nudges them toward our team will implement the solution if your organization prefers active voice. If someone types the word utilize instead of use, Zia catches that one too. So, instead of one person going around correcting language in everyone's draft, the tool just does that in the background. It's like having a built in copy editor that understands your brand.
So you tell writer the rules, the writing rules for your brand, and Zia points out anything that breaks those rules as the people just go ahead and type.
Yes, that's right, Gautam.
So, all right, now let's talk about something everyone feels but rarely names. Every time someone rewrites the same clause from memory, there is a chance something might get changed, like a word here, a condition there, etc. And that small inconsistency is exactly how errors creep in. Review cycles will get longer, and even compliance gets harder to guarantee. The fix is not telling people to be more careful, it's making sure that they never have to rewrite it in the first place. So, the next question is, how can I create a centralized library of reusable content so to avoid duplication and in order to maintain my consistency, the brand consistency?
This is where reusable content blocks are a game changer. In Zoho Writer, we call them quick parts. They're basically saved building blocks that can include reusable blocks of content like clauses, disclaimers, standard intros, and even pricing sections. Say your legal team has a standard confidentiality clause for vendor agreements. Instead of everyone hunting for the latest contract and copy pasting from there, you save that clause once as a quick part. Now, when someone creates a vendor agreement, they just insert the quick part that's named confidentiality. And because it's centrally managed, everyone who pulls that quick part gets the new and approved version and not last year's outdated wording. This reduces error and minimizes review cycle because everyone's working from the pre-approved content. So instead of saying please don't use that template from 3 years ago, they just say use the official block in Writer. Let me quickly show you a demo of quick parts in Zoho Writer. So here's the same contract that we showed earlier. As an org admin, I just go to the admin panel And then I can create new category of quick parts here. So just a second. So let me open this document here. So I select this portion of the address from my document that we reuse again and again in our organization, and just go to insert menu and select quick parts and hit save selection to quick parts library. Just enter the name here and pick a category and just hit save. So for anyone who has to insert this address on the header part in their documents, they just have to double click here and go to insert and pick the quick part from the appropriate category, and it's inserted here instantly. So this is how, as an admin, one can go to the admin panel and create categories of quick parts and select a specific content chunk from the document and save it as a quick part in the library, and how the organizations can instantly insert the quick part from picking from the library.
Well, that was really easy and smooth, Raksha. Okay, so now we have covered what goes inside the document. Next comes the part where things often go off the rails, which is sharing. And when sharing isn't standardized, the real risk is over there. Documents might land in a different hand, who's not supposed to see the document. Multiple versions might float around with no clear owner. And when someone asks who has the latest copy, nobody has a clean answer. Version control breaks down, unauthorized access happens without anyone noticing, and when it comes to audit time, that will become a nightmare. So the question that naturally follows is, how can I ensure documents are shared in a consistent, secure, and controlled manner so that the right people receive the right document with the right access?
Great question. Standardizing distribution ensures documents are shared in a consistent, secure, and a controlled manner across the organization. So think about how documents currently move around. Someone emails a file to their personal Gmail, someone drops a contract into a random sharing link, someone even sends a policy PDF on WhatsApp. Now, you have got multiple versions but no clear access control and no clear proper trail. Standardizing distribution means you decide who can share documents or how they share and in what format. In Writer, instead of sending attachments all over the place, you share secure links with permissions like view, comment, edit, or even download. You can also set expiry dates so links just don't live forever and ever. You can also see who opened the document and when, which is gold when someone says, I've never received it, or when audit time comes around. So, it's not just can everyone access this type of problem. It's more like can the right people access the right document but in a controlled way.
So it's one source of truth instead of multiple mystery folders.
Yes, exactly. So, we have talked about how your documents look and sound. The next bit is how they actually move around between people and automation and other stuff. And that's Gautam's territory. Gautam, I let you walk us through them.
Thank you, Raksha. And this is where a lot of organizations feel the pain the most. Without a standardized review process, roles get blurry, nobody knows who's supposed to give final sign off. Feedback arrives from five different people in five different emails, and the whole thing drags on far longer than it should. That delay doesn't just slow down on one document, it slows down the decision behind it.
Exactly. And that's why people usually ask us, how can I set up consistent review process for documents across my organization with role-based access and track changes?
Well, this is where a lot of organizations struggle without a standardized review process where documents will get stuck in endless email chains. So let's say someone sends a draft, three people reply with conflicting feedback, someone else was supposed to approve, but wasn't copied in that email, and a week later, you're still trying to figure out who has got the latest version of the document. Whereas with Writer, you set up a standardized review workflow. So first review and then approve, which is available right from the document. You choose who needs to review, who needs to approve, and in what order. And not to worry, Writer routes the document automatically with exact email alerts that you prefer. And as people review, they can track changes and leave comments. Writer shows exactly who changed what and when. And not only that, you can also compare versions side by side to see what's different. And for sensitive sections, let's say like the financial data or confidential clauses, you can make use of content locking and masking. So that section cannot be edited by certain reviewers, or it's completely hidden under until it passes in a specific approval stage. So you've got full control over who sees and edits what.
So let me put this in one sentence. You move from emailing 10 different copies of the same file to sharing one secure link with clear permissions and even an access trail.
That is exactly correct.
Okay, so we've talked about how documents move through review and approval. Now, let's look at the moment that really hurts if you get it wrong. That's generating lots of documents in bulk. When documents are generated without a standard process, every output is a gamble. One team uses a different template and another pulls data from a different source, and the result is inconsistent documents going out under the same brand. One wrong clause in a bulk generated contract isn't just an error, it's a compliance risk across every document in that batch. So the question here is, how can I standardize the way we generate personalized business documents in bulk using data from my apps?
Well, this is where standardization really pays off at scale. So think about a company that sends hundreds of contracts, invoices, or offer letters every month. If every department is generating those documents differently, like let's say someone uses Word mail merge, someone copy paste content into some PDFs, and some manually starts filling the fields. So you will have a document which ends up with inconsistencies, errors, and a lot of wasted time. With Zoho Writer, you standardize the entire generation process using mail merge templates. You create one approved template, let's say an offer letter, and simply you connect it to your data source. And this data source can be Zoho CRM, Zoho Books, Recruit, or even an external application. You can also repurpose existing PDF documents and forms. So if you've got a contract that's been in use for many years in your company as a static PDF, you don't have to rebuild it from scratch. You just bring it into Writer, turn it into a merge template, and now it'll have the ability to pull live data. And when you run the merge, you choose your preferred output option. Like let's say someone prefers PDF, docx, or not only that, you can also directly send your document after merge via email, send it for e-signature, and you can also route through an approval workflow. And because it's all standardized, every document that gets generated looks the same, has the same formatting, and also follows the same process.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, Gautam. The big idea here is that you configure the template once, connect it to your data source, and from then on, every generated document is consistent in look, content, and even the process.
You're absolutely right, Raksha.
Great. So that's documents going out. Now let's flip it for a second and talk about information coming in from our customers, employees, and partners. When data collection isn't standardized, every submission looks different. Some people fill a paper form, some send an email, some even use a PDF that someone else printed and scanned. You end up spending more time cleaning and consolidating the data than actually using it. So the question is, How can I standardize how my organization collects business data using fillable digital forms, replacing existing inconsistent paper forms and static PDFs?
Well, this is a huge pain point for a lot of organizations. You've got some teams using paper forms, some using static PDFs that, let's say, people have to print and scan, and even some other using Google Forms, and some might be using a third-party tools. So the data comes in different formats, and you have to appoint a person who has to manually consolidate it. With Zoho Writer, you standardized content collection using fillable templates. You can start from scratch or repurpose existing paper and PDF forms using artificial intelligence. Writer scans the old forms, detects the fields, and places fillable fields on top of it automatically. You can add conditional logic to show or even hide fields based on previous answers so that your form stays clean and relevant. And if you need to collect repeating information like multiple line items in a purchase order, or if it is an insurance, you might be having multiple dependents on an enrollment form. We have a feature called subforms, which can be used to collect these multiple line items. So people can add or remove rows as needed. And the best part is you still get structured, consistent data. So once the form is submitted, you're not just collecting responses in a spreadsheet. Zoho Writer has the ability which can to automatically generate documents from those responses that you have collected. So you can create documents like contracts, approval forms, receipts, and apply conditional clauses, convert the collected data into a PDF, and even send it for signature. This data can be pushed into various applications like Zoho CRM using Deluge without any manual copy paste of these contents.
So, do you mean both my forms and my documents are part of the same flow where data comes in and documents automatically go out? That too with the same data?
Yes, you're absolutely right, Raksha.
That's really a clean loop from data in to documents out. Now, the next place things can feel chaotic is getting everything signed properly. Without a standardized signing process, some teams email PDFs and ask for scanned signatures. Some use one tool, some use another, and the recipient on the other end has no idea if what they're receiving is legitimate. That inconsistency creates delays, audit gaps, and honestly, it just doesn't inspire confidence. So, the question I have is how can I standardize document approval and e signature workflows across my organization?
Well, that's a good question, Raksha. So, with Zoho Sign integrated into Zoho Writer, you can create a standardized professional experience. You set up reusable templates with predefined signature fields. So, every contract or agreement that you generate follows the same format. You can build multi-level approval workflows where a document goes to legal first, and then it goes to finance team, and then it goes to the client. You can also set up conditional approvals like let's say the contract value is above 50K, then it requires the VP approval. So you can send the document to VP first. Otherwise, it goes straight to the standard approver. And here's what it really matters, the digital audit trail. So every step, who signed, when, from what IP address, which device, everything is logged and legally compliant. So when an auditor asks, how do you know this was signed by the right person? You will have a complete documentation with every step in every detail. To the external recipient, this looks like a professional branded experience. So it's not a suspicious random link, it's a secure, standardized process that builds trust.
Okay, so instead of every team inventing their own way to get something signed, you have one standard trackable signing flow for everything.
Exactly, Raksha.
That's great. Now let's wrap up the life cycle with something unglamorous but super important, that is archiving and retention. And this one is easy to ignore until it becomes a problem. Documents piling up in random folders, nobody sure what to do or how to keep them for how long, and then one day an auditor asks for a record from 3 years ago and nobody can find it. Inconsistent retention isn't just messy, it's a compliance risk. So, tell me, Gautam, how can I enforce consistent data retention and lifecycle management across all my documents in the organization?
Well, Raksha, different regulations require different retention periods. Financial records might need to be kept for 7 years, whereas HR records, it can be just kept for 5 years. And if it is a contract, then it can be 10 years. So if every department is managing this differently, you risk deleting something that is too early or keeping something too long and violating privacy regulations. So here's how you enforce it. First, archiving. So instead of documents just sitting in active folders forever, you can archive team folders that are no longer in active use. They're not deleted, they're not cluttering your workspace, they are simply moved out of the way but still accessible whenever you require them. Second, data retention. You can set retention periods so that the documents in trash aren't permanently deleted until the defined period has passed. Even after permanent deletion, you can configure a secondary retention window so nothing disappears before your compliance requirements are met. Third is shared links. So when you share a document via a link or directly via email, you can set an expiry date on it. So once the date passes, the link stops working automatically. No manual follow up, no chasing people to stop accessing something that they shouldn't anymore. And fourth, role based control. So, not everyone in your organization should have the ability to delete documents. By assigning the right roles and permissions, you ensure that only authorized users can take irreversible actions. So basically, the documents are protected from accidental or premature deletion by default. So the core idea is simple. Documents follow a clear life cycle that matches your compliance needs, and nothing disappears or even stays around longer than it should. So before we wrap up this session, I want to give you a quick peek at what's coming. And if today's session showed you how much is possible with standardization right now, what's coming next takes it even further. First up is data classification, sensitivity labels, and content marking for DLP. So this means every document in your organization can be automatically classified based on its sensitivity, like confidential, internal, public, and not only that, it can be marked accordingly. So your data loss prevention policies have something concrete to act on, and sensitive documents don't actually accidentally end up in the wrong hands. Next is workflow triggers for periodic reviews. Imagine setting a rule that says every compliance documents get automatically sent for review for, let's say, about every 6 months. So, and this has to happen without anyone having to remember or manually kick it off. So that's exactly what Writer is going to bring in. So you will have a scheduled automatic review cycles that keeps your document current without any manual intervention. And third is compliance standards. So we are planning to provide compliance standards to meet WCAG 2.1 AA standards. So this one is about making sure every document your organization creates is inclusive, readable, and it is also usable for everyone. So it also includes people using assistive technologies. Accessibility stops being an afterthought and becomes a part of your standard document process. So standardization isn't just where we are today, it's clearly where we are headed.
All right, that brings us to the end of our session. We've covered the full standardization stack today, from templates and formatting to workflows, document generation, signing, and archiving. And the key takeaway is standardization isn't just about making documents look the same, it's also about eliminating repetitive work, ensuring compliance, reducing errors, and mainly giving your teams more time to focus on high value work instead of just simply fixing margins and chasing the signatures. Thanks for everyone who joined today.